Life demands a creator. Chaos cannot birth order or meaning. Hello everyone, Dr. Dan Mason, PhD here. Let's explore another issue in our current events together, abiogenesis and evolution. Funny how the evolutionist always says belief is unnecessary, yet the entire system of abiogenesis and evolution demands more faith than reason. When I hear someone say, evolution doesn't require belief, I have to smile. Of course it does. It just substitutes belief in God for belief in randomness, belief in purpose for belief in chaos, and belief in the Creator for belief in chance. Abiogenesis and evolution are not separate ideas. You cannot have one without the other. If life did not come from life, then it must have come from non-life, which violates both logic and observable science. Every experiment on abiogenesis ends the same way: failure. Stanley Miller and Harold Urey tried to mimic what they thought were early Earth conditions, yet they manipulated the experiment to fit their outcome. They used gases that did not exist in the real ancient atmosphere, filtered out the amino acids that would have destroyed each other, and still produced nothing alive. Proteins, DNA, and RNA require precise information sequences. That information must be encoded, transmitted, and interpreted. Random chemistry cannot explain information. The simplest living cell is a factory with systems of replication, energy conversion, waste management, and protection. To say that lightning and mud created that is not science, it is storytelling. Evolution depends on that first living cell. Without abiogenesis, evolution has no starting point. They claim that once the first cell formed, natural selection took over. But natural selection cannot create new information. It can only filter existing genes. Mutations destroy, they do not design. They can cause loss of color in cave fish or resistance in bacteria, but they never turn one kind of organism into another. If abiogenesis cannot happen, and evolution cannot add information, then both collapse under their own weight. Logically, evolution violates its own premise. It demands that complexity arise from chaos without a designer. That defies the law of cause and effect. Nothing produces nothing. Every building needs a builder, every code needs a programmer, every design requires a designer. To claim otherwise is intellectual hypocrisy. The same scientists who demand proof for God will invent multiverses, spontaneous generation, and self-creating universes to avoid accountability to the Creator they deny. Biblically, the error is clear. The Word says that in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. He formed man from the dust and breathed into him the breath of life. Life did not come from the dust itself. It came from the breath of God. That is the key difference. Dust without the breath is lifeless. Matter without spirit cannot think, move, or reproduce. Every living thing carries the spark of divine life, not the residue of cosmic chance. The push for abiogenesis and evolution has always been about control. If man convinces himself that he is not created, he owes no one his worship. If life is an accident, morality becomes a preference, and sin becomes a social construct. Governments, schools, and ideologues can then shape truth to fit their agenda. Remove the Creator, and man becomes God. That is why this battle matters. It is not a debate between science and faith. It is a war between accountability and autonomy. Evolution tells man he is free from his maker. The Bible tells man he will meet his maker. One message flatters pride, the other calls for repentance. When I look at the complexity of DNA or the fine-tuning of the universe, I see fingerprints of design everywhere. Even atheists use words like machine, program, and code when describing the cell. They speak like engineers because creation speaks like engineering. They call it evolution, but it is adaptation. Variation within a kind, exactly as Genesis says. The Bible does not deny micro changes. It denies macro fantasy. I have met scientists who know the problems but fear speaking. They know that life cannot come from non-life and that random mutation cannot explain consciousness, morality, or meaning. Yet their silence keeps the control in place. To question the dogma risks career and funding. The same system that mocks faith demands loyalty to its creed of chaos. That is not science. That is religion disguised as reason. In the end, the issue is not evidence. The heavens declare the glory of God. The problem is submission. Abiogenesis and evolution are convenient idols for a world that does not want a king. But the truth stands unmoved. Life came from life. The order came from mind. Man came from God, and no theory built on chance will ever change that. Project Dawn. The clock in the cold room ticked like a little hammer. Blue arcs flashed inside a glass chamber and faded to gray. A line on the monitor climbed and trembled. I held my breath and watched the curve. It sank into noise. Another trial ended in silence. I lead Project Dawn. We attempt to model the earliest chemistry of life. The grant says abiogenesis. The hallway whispers evolution. Without a first living cell, evolution has no path. I told new students the truth on day one. Lena stepped in with coffee and winter on her scarf. She tapped her tablet and showed me a neat graph. 8 linked units, she said. I nodded and gave a thin smile. 8 is not life. It is a rung on a ladder, she said. We set another run. A thread appeared. 12 units, 15, 20. The curve held. I felt hope move like a small bird under my ribs. Then a spike cut the line. The thread unraveled. That afternoon, we spoke at the University Forum on Origins. The hall smelled of old books and new varnish. A banner promised rigorous inquiry. The dean shook hands with donors and said the word discovery in a voice learned from television. Lena presented her curve and won warm applause. A visiting biologist praised the work and asked a gentle question with a sharp edge. He wondered how a tidy ring becomes a living cell. He asked who reads a code that writes itself. Time and selection, I said. Many small steps. I thought about our careful hands. We filter out what would poison the chain. We shield the fragile parts from light that would burn them. We are stage hands who claim the stage performs the play. After the forum, the dean pulled me aside. The board expects a convincing story this year, he said. Our donors believe the first spark is near. Help them feel it. I nodded and said I would do my best. I walked home in light snow, crossing the river. My father once read to me about breath and dust. He said life came from life. His old book still sits behind my safety manual. Near midnight, I went back to the lab. I set a fresh mixture and whispered a line to the quiet. The curve rose, 25 units. An hour passed. Then a slight tremor rippled across the line. The ring slipped. The signal fell. Lena found me sitting on the floor. She sat beside me and told me a story. Her mother sang a psalm in the kitchen while the sink ran. It said the Maker stretched the sky and called the stars by name. She said she missed the sound of water and that voice together. Do you believe the song? I asked. I believe the longing, she said. In the morning, I met the dean. We can nurse threads, I said. Chance can sketch. Evolution cannot walk without a first step. I will not claim we have built life. He asked if I had found faith. I told him I had found a wall. He said walls do not draw donors. He asked for my resignation. I packed a small box. I left the broken flasks and took a photo of my wife and son. I took the old book. Weeks passed. Lena kept Project Dawn alive and sent brief notes at night. We held 30 units. We lost them at dawn. Try again tomorrow. Her words felt brave and tired at once. I wrote back, praising her calm hands. I told her patience can be a kind of song. I rented a room near the river and taught a seminar titled First Things. We read papers on prebiotic chemistry and poems about breath. We spoke about selection and meaning. The students asked sharp questions. On clear days, we held class on the bridge and watched the water carry small islands of foam. One evening, a student named Noor stayed late. Her brother loved my old talks and wore a shirt that said, "We are stardust." She asked if I still believed that line. Stars forge carbon, I said. Carbon shapes your hand. Love tells your hand whom to hold. She let the answer rest. Spring crept in. I walked past the lab some nights and saw the windows glow. I sent up a small prayer for whoever kept the rigs alive. I thanked God for minds and hands and the mercy of limits. I asked for courage to be plain in a world that loves a stage. The visiting biologist found me on the bridge one dusk. He leaned over the rail and watched the water turn copper. You were honest in the hall, he said. Limits can be gifts, I said. He asked if I believed a maker speaks. Yes, I said. He speaks, and we echo. Some echoes are equations, some are songs. Even our code sounds like music when it works. He nodded. We listened as the river said one word. Continue. On the last day of term, I asked each student to write one page in which something was said and someone heard it. We read them with the windows open. A bus sighed. A child laughed. A bell rang. That night, I dreamed of a ladder resting on a rock. I reached up. A hand reached down. I woke before dawn and opened the old book. The page spoke of a word in the dark and breath in dust. I walked to the river. Ducks cut little paths in the skin of the world. I stood there a long time and felt glad for a story with room for mind and mercy. The sun lifted. I breathed in. I began again. I listened. Thanks for watching or reading. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment to support this channel.